In a world where fame often arrives suddenly and disappears just as quickly, the story of Jodie Foster stands as one of the most remarkable journeys in Hollywood history. A story not just about talent, but about intelligence, resilience, and the quiet determination to rise above the chaos of fame and build a life defined by purpose rather than popularity. Because long before the world recognized her as an Academy Award-winning actress and visionary director, she was simply a young girl, navigating an industry that rarely gives children the chance to grow up on their own terms. Yet from the very beginning there was something different about her presence, something calm, thoughtful, and deeply focused that made people realize she was not just another child actor passing through Hollywood, but someone destined to leave a permanent mark on cinema itself. And it all began in Los Angeles, where she was born into a family that encouraged curiosity and education as much as creativity, a balance that would later become the secret weapon that protected her from the traps that often destroy young stars. Because while many child actors were overwhelmed by attention, she approached the industry almost like a student studying a craft, learning how cameras worked, how characters were built, and how stories could move audiences. And by the time most children were just starting school, she had already appeared in commercials and small television roles that slowly introduced her to the entertainment world. Yet what made her stand out was not just her natural acting ability, but the seriousness with which she approached every opportunity, treating even the smallest role as if it mattered deeply, a mindset that would soon catch the attention of directors, searching for performers who could deliver emotional depth far beyond their age. And as the years passed, her early work evolved into larger roles in television and film, but the real turning point came when she collaborated with legendary filmmaker Martin Scorsese in the iconic movie Taxi Driver, a film that would forever change her life and establish her as one of the most talented young actors Hollywood had ever seen. Because in that film she portrayed a character far more complex than typical child roles, demonstrating a level of maturity and emotional intelligence that stunned audiences and critics alike, earning her an Academy Award nomination at an age when most actors are still dreaming about their first audition. Yet even as her fame grew, she remained remarkably grounded, understanding that success in Hollywood can be temporary if it is not supported by discipline and self-awareness. And this understanding led her to make one of the most unusual decisions any young star had ever made. She chose education over constant fame, enrolling at the prestigious Yale University where she studied literature, a decision that shocked many people in the entertainment industry who assumed that actors must stay in the spotlight at all times to remain relevant. But for her, knowledge was never separate from creativity. It was a way to deepen her understanding of human stories and emotions. And during those university years, she demonstrated the same focus that had defined her career from the beginning, studying intensely while occasionally returning to film projects that truly interested her rather than chasing every opportunity that appeared, proving that real power in a creative career comes from choosing meaningful work instead of simply chasing fame. And when she returned to the big screen after her studies, she did so with even greater strength and confidence, delivering unforgettable performances in films like The Accused and The Silence of the Lambs, performances that not only earned her 2 Academy Awards but also demonstrated her extraordinary ability to portray characters who are intelligent, determined, and emotionally complex, characters who face fear yet refuse to surrender to it. And audiences around the world were captivated by her portrayal of Clarice Starling, a young FBI trainee navigating a terrifying investigation while maintaining courage and moral clarity, a role that became one of the most iconic performances in film history and proved that she was no longer just a former child star, but one of the most powerful actors of her generation. Yet even at the peak of her acting career, she continued expanding her creative vision, stepping behind the camera to direct films that explored human relationships, identity, and the quiet struggles people carry within themselves, demonstrating that storytelling is not limited to performance but can also flourish through directing and producing. And this evolution from actress to filmmaker revealed another dimension of her intelligence. Because directing requires leadership, patience, and the ability to see an entire story unfold from beginning to end. Qualities she developed through years of observing great directors and learning how cinema works from every angle, and as the years passed, she became known not only for her remarkable performances, but also for her thoughtful approach to storytelling, choosing projects that explore real human emotions rather than simple entertainment, and throughout her career she maintained a reputation for professionalism, intelligence, and quiet strength, rarely seeking publicity yet consistently, earning respect from colleagues and audiences who recognized her commitment to meaningful work. And perhaps the most inspiring part of her journey is the way she balanced fame with personal integrity, protecting her private life and focusing on what truly matters rather than allowing the pressures of Hollywood to shape her identity, a choice that allowed her to grow not only as an artist, but as a person, and today her legacy continues to inspire actors, filmmakers, and dreamers who understand that success is not simply about recognition or awards, but about the courage to remain authentic in a world that constantly tries to define you. Because the story of Jodie Foster reminds us that greatness does not come from chasing attention, but from mastering your craft, protecting your values, and trusting that intelligence and perseverance will always outlast temporary fame. And for millions of people around the world, her journey stands as proof that a determined mind can transform early talent into lifelong excellence, turning a young girl who once appeared in small television commercials into a legendary figure, whose influence continues shaping cinema and inspiring future generations to pursue their dreams with courage, discipline, and the quiet confidence that true success is built not in moments of applause, but in years of dedication, learning, and the unwavering belief that every story worth telling begins with the courage to remain true to yourself. The journey of Jodie Foster is one of those rare stories in Hollywood where intelligence, resilience, and quiet determination shaped a life far greater than fame itself. Because in an industry that often rewards noise over substance and spectacle over sincerity, she carved a path defined by discipline, curiosity, and the constant desire to grow beyond expectations. And what makes her journey so powerful is not simply the awards or the iconic films, but the mindset she carried through every stage of her career. A mindset that refused to let success become a distraction from learning and refused to let fame become the definition of who she was. And as the years progressed after her breakthrough in Taxi Driver, she began proving that child stars do not have to fade away or become lost in the chaos of celebrity culture. Because instead of chasing endless roles, she carefully selected projects that challenged her emotionally and intellectually, turning every performance into a study of human complexity. And this thoughtful approach eventually led to some of the most unforgettable roles in cinematic history, including her powerful performance in The Accused, a film that demanded extraordinary emotional courage and honesty. And through that performance, she demonstrated that acting could be more than entertainment. It could be a voice for truth, empathy, and justice. A reminder that stories on screen can reflect real struggles faced by people in society, and that role not only earned her an Academy Award but also solidified her reputation as an actress who could bring depth and humanity to the most challenging characters. Yet what truly transformed her legacy came just a few years later with the release of The Silence of the Lambs, where she portrayed Clarice Starling, a young FBI trainee navigating a terrifying psychological world while remaining courageous and intelligent in the face of fear, and the film itself became one of the most celebrated movies in cinematic history, winning multiple Academy Awards and redefining the thriller genre. While her performance became iconic for the way it balanced vulnerability with strength, proving that heroes do not always shout or dominate a room but sometimes move quietly, guided by intelligence and integrity, and the influence of that character continues to shape modern storytelling even decades later, inspiring writers and filmmakers to create protagonists who rely on emotional insight rather than physical power alone. And as her acting career continued evolving, she also began stepping more confidently into the world of directing, exploring stories from behind the camera with the same thoughtful perspective that defined her performances, directing films such as Little Man Tate and later Money Monster, Projects that revealed her ability to guide actors, shape narratives, and bring complex human experiences to life on screen. And directing allowed her to explore storytelling in a deeper way, proving that creativity does not belong to a single role but can expand endlessly when someone is willing to learn every part of the craft.